IVM.
News Kids on the Block. We bring to you stories that top the nation's papers. Fresh from the Ascend International School and IVM desk. Hi, I'm Kavya.
I'm Anya.
And I'm Trivik.
And welcome to this episode of News Kids on the Block, where we give you all the top news updates of the week. And I thought we've not done a COVID update for a while.
Yeah, I stole Kavya's last COVID update. So Kavya especially has not done a COVID update for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought I'd bring back the tradition in a way and do one today.
Of course, as you must.
And so let's talk about something that's been happening worldwide, what's happening with COVID around the world. So 5.56 billion doses of any COVID-19 vaccines have been administered around the world. And on an average, that's about 72 doses for every 100 people, which seems like a lot, actually. It is a lot. And obviously, that'll differ from country to country, but it's pretty cool to think about. And currently in the world, UAE has vaccinated 79% of their population fully. And so that's the most. And secondly is Uruguay, that has vaccinated 73% of their population. I'm getting this data from New York Times. And then on the other side of the spectrum is countries like Congo and Haiti that have vaccinated only 0.1% of their population. So we've kind of got stuff on both sides of the spectrums here. And secondly, I'm pretty sure you guys have heard about the Mu variant of COVID. It's a new variant the World Health Organization has identified. So as it's being researched more and more, we're finding that it has genetic differences compared to other COVID-19 variants. And these genetic differences make it more transmissible, so easier to catch from one person to another, and might be more severe. And the worst of it all is that it might have a response, it may be able to escape the immune response of vaccines, any vaccines of COVID, and make it susceptible to any sort of treatment or vaccine or medication, which is very scary.
Thank you for all of that positivity that you have brought us with the COVID update, Kavya. Wear a mask, please. Stay socially distanced.
Moving on, this is my story. This is not exactly a football story, but it is also a football story. But I think it's more about the politics of football. So instead of waffling, let me get right into it. So on the 31st of August this year, the Ireland Football Association announced that both their men's and women's team will be receiving equal pay. And a deal was struck between the representatives of the teams to find a solution where, and I quote, "The Irish Football Association is proud to announce that players representing the Republic of Ireland's senior men's and women's team will receive the same match fees in international matches." And I think this is not the first team that's done it, but this is one of the the more notable teams that's done it, because Ireland are obviously a big footballing country, even though they have fallen off massively in terms of international form. Anya, I think I thought you would have an opinion on this. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think it's great that they're doing it. And to me personally, the pay is just one thing. What the pay is indicating is that there's an equality when it comes to opportunity. There's an equality when it comes to training, fitness, access, resources. And that's what comes with the pay. So I think that's what I'm happy about, because, Trivik and you and I have talked about this so much, where we say that you can't, the open quotes men's footballing industry makes so many billions of dollars, whereas in comparison, the women's open quote footballing industry does not make as much. So there has to be some way to bridge that. And I think that the opportunities is what's doing that, and then the money will come. But I think it's a great way to start that conversation and to make those steps. So, hats off to Ireland.
Yeah, I personally think that, I think while what you are saying is true, they obviously don't bring in the same income as the men's team, because, and I'm not saying that's their fault. It's because at the moment, the men's game is more streamed worldwide. They have more TV rights. They've got more coverage. And just if women's football was as covered as men's football, could understand that if they may bring in the same money, the equal pay is fine. But I'm glad to see that they are making some steps towards giving men and women equal chances in the sport.
Absolutely. I think it's all about what you consume and how much of it you're consuming.
And with that, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? Or if we'll ever go back to wearing pants while working? For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Varun Dugirala. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcasts website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
And welcome back to News Kids on the Block, where we bring to you all the top news updates of the week. I am your co-host, Anya Daftary. And let's take a second to do the last Paralympics update for the next 4 years. And
No, I've actually really enjoyed these Paralympics. I think that they've been very exciting to watch, and I know that our listeners will be really sad to hear that it is coming to an end. But if every song's going to end, that doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy it.
Trivik, please stop trying to take over my update. Okay, so India actually did the best that they've done, winning 19 medals. This includes 5 gold medals won by Avni Lekhara, Sumit Antil, Manish Narwal, Pramod Bhagat, and Krishna Nagar. Like I said, pretty incredible. Something that I wanted to talk about was Praveen Kumar became the youngest Indian in history to get a medal at the Paralympics, and he's only 18. And he won this in athletics in the high jump in the T64 category, and he's only 18, and that seems like, yeah, he's 18, that's practically an adult. But I've been having a midlife crisis lately, because I'm like, I'm 15, that means in 3 years I'll be 18, and it's so incredible to see people doing things, and it genuinely bothers me that I'm not doing anything other than procrastinating studying. But yeah, all of that aside, I think it's been an incredible game, and the fortnight has come to an end, the Paralympics have come to an end, and it has been, like I said, incredible for India. It's great to see our athletes doing so well, and we will look forward to seeing them in other events in the next 4 years, and then of course at the Paralympics in 2024, 24, 28.
2024.
I can't do math. I really can't do
It's
math.
24 because the Olympics were postponed.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Anna. I really can't wait to see what the future holds for India and sports. Saying that, let's move into a bit of a heavier story. We're going to talk about abortion, and there have been a few in the world, across the world. There have been a couple of laws that have been made that affects a lot of women everywhere. So, Anya, why don't you start us off?
Yeah. So we'll start by talking about the Texas abortion law, which you might or might not have come across in the news. This law is known as the Senate Bill 8. And what it basically says, if I boil it down to one sentence, is that abortions can only happen in 6 weeks. Just to parallel it, in India, you can have an abortion from up to 20 weeks. Now, what this means is that beyond just that timely restriction, it is also making no exceptions for pregnancies that are a product of rape or incest. It also says that the state isn't going to enforce the law, it's rather the citizens. So people from outside of Texas or from other places, anyone who violates the law essentially can sue clinics. And if they are successful in this suing process, they will be awarded at least at a minimum of $10,000. Furthermore, what's most problematic with this law is that patients cannot be sued. So basically, the doctor, a nurse, even New York Times said even an Uber driver can become a defendant to this. And what this law is basically doing is it's taking into question, or sort of going against, the 1973 Supreme Court decision that was made, which made abortions legal for women. Joe Biden and his government called it an extreme law, and they said that they're trying to take it down. But with the US especially, a lot of times the state laws can outrun and, overturn the national laws. Texas as a state is known to be relatively conservative, and I personally am pro-choice. I believe that as a woman, you should have a right to make your own decisions. And to me, the way I see this is that a government is sort of making a decision on what constitutes as life. And my mom and I have talked about this a lot, because we talk about the PNDT in India, where we just say, like, a government is defining what life is, and how, whether it counts as a sort of open quote murder or not. Similarly, and Kavya will talk about a second nation that's done something a little bit opposite in some ways. And that whole concept of life, like, what is life? If you think about it in this context, I don't know what the right answer is. Some other states like Georgia and Mississippi have a law called the heartbeat law. I think that's what it's colloquially called, at least. And basically, as long as you can like hear the heartbeat, if you can't hear the heartbeat of the child, of the fetus, then it's deemed valid. This bill in general, it's concerning because 6 weeks is not a lot of time. Most women don't know they're pregnant, and some studies say that a fetus, it's like whatever is the embryo, I guess. I don't pay attention in biology, you guys. Okay, the point is that for the most part, it can take up to 9 weeks until you understand that it's a fetus. Like, it's not deemed, the organism is not deemed a fetus until 9 weeks, according to some people. So as a whole, I think it's really problematic because it puts this very, very restrictive limitation on what women are able to do in a very restricted time frame. And in some ways, that's essentially overturning their right to having an abortion at all.
And like you said, Anya, it's really scary because I do also believe that it's a woman's choice to decide what happens to her body. And with these restrictive laws being put in place, it obviously is bringing that margin closer and closer. So I agree with everything you said. Let's take a short break. That was obviously pretty heavy. Let's take a short break.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Paisa Vaisa with Anupam Gupta, Avinash Luthria, advice-only financial planner, and SEBI RII at Fiduciaries address the common mistakes that financial planners make while giving out advice. On Storytellers and Storysellers with Vineet, podcaster Nikesh Murali shares what goes into making a high-quality horror podcast. Learn how micro-meditations can help elevate our work on Smarter with Sid. On our Kannada podcast, Thale Harate, Ganesh and Surya talk to Sandhya Rani, the award-winning writer of Kannada movie Nati Charamani that's based on female desires and consent. And on Smile India, Shifa Mehta tells us a fascinating story behind India's first female railway announcer. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. And finally, we would like to thank our sponsors this week on the network, Fiat Cred, Bank of Baroda, Quarter, CoinSwitch Kuber, and Intuit India. Thank you so much for making this possible.
And welcome back to News Kids on the Block with me, Trivik.
Me, Kavya.
And me, Anya.
And our last story for the day is a football story. It is actually a really interesting, I guess you could call it funny, but that would be insensitive to the people involved. Because I'll tell you what happened. So Argentina were playing versus Brazil in a World Cup qualifier this weekend. And what happened was the Brazilian government, they came into the game 6 minutes in and they deported 4 Argentinian players 6 minutes into the World Cup qualifying game. They deported them for breaching the quarantine rules. And the Argentinian team had already been in Brazil for 3 days. And they decided to come 6 minutes into the match and come and deport them. And I think that was a really bizarre decision to see all that happening. And I was actually watching the game live. And I was so surprised with all that was going on there. And the players who were deported actually were all Premier League players because they didn't complete the mandatory quarantine after you fly in from the UK. The players' names are Giovanni Lo Celso, Emiliano Buendia, Emiliano Martinez, and Christian Romero. These 4 were all deported back to the UK like minutes after they begin the most important games in their qualifying attempts. But I think they shouldn't have lied about breaching the COVID rules. But I definitely think the situation could have been handled better, especially by the Brazilian government, as the team were already in the country for 3 days before the game actually happened. And I assume that they knew that this quarantine had been breached because all of them played games which were nationally televised the day before they left. So I think it's a bit bizarre how they waited so long, but the things people will do for publicity these days, am I right?
Absolutely, Trivik. Anyways, that's all we have for you today. We hope you enjoyed this episode of News Kids on the Block. Don't forget to tune in to us every Friday for our fresh take on the news from across the globe.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other podcasts on the IVM network.
You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
We'll see you next week. But till then, do share this episode with your folks. Stay safe. And don't forget to do your homework.
If you're a cricket fan, check out Edges and Sledges, India's favorite cricket podcast.
The podcast focuses on Indian cricket, the IPL, and has a ton of banter both on and off the field.
We talk about the week's biggest cricket stories with current and ex-international cricketers, coaches,
or sometimes just between us.
And it's hosted by me, DJ.
Me, Varun. And me, Ashwin.
New episodes release every week.
You can catch us on the IVM Podcasts website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast.
Eventually, you'll see the end of your childhood.
Get accustomed to womanhood.
Enjoy the experience of sisterhood.
Might get to wifehood.
Or not. Choose motherhood.
Or not. You'll learn to define your personhood.
Earn a livelihood.
Change the neighborhood.
And get rid of the falsehood that life post-academia is easy.
So join me, Natasha.
And me, Ayushi.
On a journey from station starting point.
To station, what now?
Next station, Pudil station. And hopefully, Agla station, adulthood.
Fresh episodes out every Thursday.